Hello, boys and girls. Hello. We're going to read a story of a gentleman by the name of Marc Chagall. He was a famous artist, and we're going to talk about his life story, and then we're going to create a piece of art that kind of resembles his work. So let's go right into it. The name of the book is I Am Marc Chagall. I Am Marc Chagall. He was born in 1887, and there's a picture of him in 1910. He's about 19 years old, 8 or 17 years old, something like that, 19. Okay. I am Marc Chagall. You might be wondering why I painted flying goats and fish, green-faced fiddlers perched on roofs, houses in the sky floating upside down, lovers flying effortlessly over the city. I painted my world, my life, all the things I loved, all the things I dreamed of, all the things I couldn't say in words. I painted my beloved Russia, my hometown, Vitebsk, the Jewish neighborhood where I grew up, the way I saw everything as a child. Now keep an eye on this guy. He drew and painted many, many goats and lambs and cows. I am Marc Chagall. Text and illustrations by Bimba Landman. I grew up in Vitebsk, a small Russian farming town. I loved its goats and hens and cows, its small wooden houses, its men with violins, their songs and prayers, its lights of Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, the candles in the windows. At night, the sky would echo with hymns, Shalom Aleichem, peace unto you, and angels would follow the head of each family home from the synagogue. I love to watch the angels flying through the sky, don't you? Then the feast would begin, noodles and stuffed fish, meat with carrots, stewed fruit. After the last prayers were said, while my family dozed off, I would go sit in the roof. I loved it up there with the moon and the stars. There I would dream about what I might become, not a butcher like my grandfather, not a barber like Uncle Zusi, certainly not a shop assistant like my father, who hauled around heavy barrels of brine-soaked herring every day. No, I dreamed of a bright future, of becoming perhaps a famous musician or a dancer or a poet. These dreams made me happy, like I was flying over Vitebsk, over all of Russia. My parents, however, they had different plans for me. They sent me to a school in the rabbi's house, where the Jewish religion was taught. There I had to learn Hebrew and study the Torah, the sacred book, and listen to the rabbi's teaching. Often, however, I was distracted. Instead of listening, I watched the baby in the cradle, the goat sticking his head through the window, the hens pecking at the floor. When my studies at the Jewish school were over, I went to a local government school. I was nervous there, though, and I began to stammer. The words just wouldn't come out. Why do I have to go to school? I said. I want to be wild and roll around in the grass, to run and shout and play. The only lessons I liked were geometry and art, where there was no need to talk. The lines and angles and colors said everything. I was good at drawing, and a friend said to me once, "You must be a real artist." That word seemed magical to me. Artist. I could be an artist, he thought. I begged my mother to let me study art. "What?" she said. For a Jew to want to be an artist is unheard of. Finally, she took me to an art teacher to ask his opinion. The teacher looked at my drawings in silence, thinking, he said I had some talent. That was all I needed to hear. I thought painting is as necessary as bread. It is my window so I can fly to another world. I like the way he used all the different media in this picture. It's called a mixed media paint picture. See how he used sticks and scraps of paper and things like that. I went to art school, but I could not paint like everyone else. I didn't want to copy old sculpture and plaster castings, and I wanted to paint memories from home. My grandfather's wagon, my mother, the goats. I invented color, and I wondered why no one else painted in purple. I was searching for a different kind of painting, but what exactly? I wondered, will I ever become a great artist? No one at home cared about my painting. My father said, go find a proper job. So for a while I worked for a photographer, but I couldn't stop thinking about painting. I went to a new art school in St. Petersburg with only 27 rubles in my pocket. I had to share a rented room. I even had to share my bed. I was starving and miserable, but my dream of painting just kept me on going. One day, I was arrested for not having a work permit. In jail, though, I lived well. I had a bed to myself, had food to eat, and a place to draw in peace. After 2 weeks in jail, my life continued the same as before. A job here and there, painting school, cold, uncomfortable nights. Every now and then, I would return to Vitebsk for the holidays. There, waiting for me, was my own room where I could just paint all day and all night long. And Bella was there. Bella. She was my sweet girlfriend. She bought me cakes and fish and flowers and filled my room with love. She floated over my canvases for a long time. She called me her twinkling star. I painted her all the time. There's a picture of Bella, I believe. Right there, his true love. But what future could I offer Bella? How could I survive in Russia where no one would buy my art? I roamed the streets and prayed and prayed and prayed. Show me the way. I want to see a new world. Suddenly, I saw the city break like the strings of a violin. I saw the people of Vitebsk flying in the sky over the roofs. I saw color spilling everywhere. I knew my art needed to fly free like in my vision. I decided to go to Paris where Van Gogh and Picasso painted. Perhaps in Paris, my art would be understood. I said, goodbye, Bella. I will come back one day and marry you. Paris, what a city, what a place for a painter. Many artists live there, artists from all over the world. I could hear sculptors chiseling away at their marble, musicians strumming on their guitars. Other painters like Modigliani invited me to see their work, and the poet Apollinaire came to see me. He read his poems to me and said, how odd and beautiful your paintings are. Did he say that because I didn't use perspective? Because I turned my canvases upside down? Because I painted on bits of tablecloth and sheets and shirts? Or was it my improbable colors, my flying goats and cows? I began to write poetry because it was as natural as breathing. The Paris poets liked my work, and they called me a poet-painter. That's one of his pictures, one of his famous paintings right here called In Paris. And there's the Eiffel Tower and his window, the cat on the stoop. I'll show you that one a little more later. To me, Paris was light, color, freedom, the sun, the joy of living. I painted there as if I were dreaming, and I always painted Vitebsk. I painted the colors of my memories, and suddenly a peasant, a fiddler, Bella, or snow-covered wooden houses would appear. My entire family, the whole of Vitebsk, lived inside my paintings. I'd say to them in my mind, your lives and actions have become my art. Well, a friend helped me to take my paintings of Vitebsk to an exhibition. He paraded them through the streets of Paris on a simple handcart. And here's a handcart. And his paintings are in the handcart, and he's pulling it like a wagon, a big, big wagon. At the exhibition, many visitors saw my paintings. There was always someone who would stand in front of my paintings and ask, why doesn't he paint like the rest? Why does he make a huge donkey and paint him green? But many of the visitors liked my paintings for what they were. In 1914, someone even took my paintings to Berlin for my first one-person show. There, I finally began to make a name for myself. Something troubled me, though. I looked at other painters' work and saw colors of gloom and foreboding, like something bad was about to happen. When I traveled through Germany by train, going back to Vitebsk to see Bella and my family, I saw the reality with my own eyes. Europe was getting ready for war. See, other paintings are a little darker and a little more gloomy compared to his with all the bright colors. Oh, they're so beautiful. The war came to Russia like a cold, biting wind. I began to draw soldiers, the wounded on stretchers, men and women with sad faces. But I also painted Bella and our wedding, and then our daughter, Ida. He must have got married and had a baby. After 3 long years of war, the Russian Revolution turned my country all upside down, like one of my paintings. To celebrate the first year of the revolution, I was asked to make posters. Soon, my brightly colored animals were paraded all over the city. I looked at the smiling faces of the children and workers and was sure they understood my art. See how they're holding his art posters on these posts and parading around the city holding them. People were starting to see his work. Pretty amazing. But the Russian leaders, they did not understand me. They asked more questions. Why is the horse flying in the sky? Why is the cow green? What does this all have to do with Russian politics anyway? I let them grumble, and I went to Moscow with Bella and Ida just to paint a new Jewish theater. They had asked him to come and paint the theater. Here are the blank walls, said the director. Do whatever you want with them. For 40 days I worked until the walls, the curtain, and ceiling were covered with paintings. A musician, a clown, a dancer, a dreaming poet, and all the peasants of my Vitebsk, including Bella, Ida, and myself. In Moscow, I also taught orphans of war. These children who had seen their world collapse took the colors and created drawings of fantasy and poetry. I was delighted to see that they understood the world inside us is at times more real than the world outside. So he taught children how to paint as well. I enjoyed teaching, but when it was time to be paid, I was always told, come back tomorrow. Once again, I had no money. Then a friend in Germany wrote to tell me that my paintings were starting to sell there. So we moved to Germany. Next, a friend in France wrote me and said, you are famous here in France. So we moved again, this time to Paris. There, I began to paint pictures from the Bible. I painted angels and the story of Jacob who slept on a stone and of David, the musician king. I also painted light and flowers and was happy in Paris with Bella for many, many years, but not forever. The Second World War broke out in Europe. In 1941, we took a ship to America. During the journey, I wondered if the silent stars above could already see my future. My life in America, my return to France after the war, the museum of my paintings in Nice, my stained glass in Jerusalem, Chicago, New York, my mosaics. Yes, perhaps the stars could already see my entire life traced out on the earth like a picture by Marc Chagall. The end. Here's one of his paintings. It's called I in the Village. This was a narrative self-portrait. It's sort of like a picture of his dreams and his memories. People have interpreted this picture to be, let me see if you can find a few things in here. Okay, you guys? Tell me if you can find a hometown, his hometown, with a church and houses and 2 people. See them up at the top? So that's where he was born. That was Vitebsk, supposedly. There was a church, I believe it's right here, and the houses, and there's 2 of the peasants from this hometown, which are the people that live in the town. The women in some of the houses in the village are upside down. So he believed that your dreams were, when you dream, they're upside down. So that's why he painted upside down. He would turn his paintings like this and paint them sometimes. So it's kind of fun to just look at the paintings from a different perspective. Do you see a ball? This was the playful side of Marc Chagall. He put a ball, a child's ball in there. People think that this is his self-portrait. This green guy painted himself green. And of course, the goat. He painted animals like goats and lambs and cows, thinking of them as cosmic creatures, so of the universe. And if you know that in the stars, there are constellations that are in the shape of animals. And so and because they were in his hometown, they reminded him of his hometown. There's a hand holding a branch. Oh, there's so much. If you were to look at his paintings, they're incredible. It's a reflection of his dreams. Here's one called Paris Through the Window. This one he painted next. This was 1911. This one was 1913. And he wrote that no word sounded sweeter to me than Paris. He loved Paris. And where's Paris again? France. And they speak Francais. They speak French in Paris, right? We know that. So he painted this one through the window to look through the window at the newness of the world of Paris and how modern. So he used a lot of shapes and triangles, and it's called cubism, using shapes in your work, and a window. And he almost always said there was a window of some sort, or some kind of a ladder type shape. So this is called Paris Through the Window. This one is called The White Crucifixion. And yes, sirree, that is Jesus on the cross. And it was his first painting combining Jewish and Christian qualities. Yeah, I love this one. It's one of my favorites. Okay, here we are with the flying. So his wife died, Bella. She died in 1944. And he was very, very sad. She had an infection, much like a virus, and she died. And so he was so sad, he didn't paint for a whole year or more. So he started painting again, and this was his first painting when he came back to paint a cow with a parasol. And a parasol is this umbrella right here. Boom. And what a silly cow, right? He's blue. Pretty neat. It's one of my favorites. If you look closely, can you find the couple? He met a new wife, and he painted a picture of her over here. The sun's starting to come up, so life is starting to look a little bit brighter for him. He has painted some other animals, a chicken or a cow, or a rooster, a cow, and a lamb or a goat. Very good. Okay, so he also painted on windows and doors and different types of wood, things like this. This is called Le Dimanche. And we all know what day of the week is Dimanche? Sunday. It's on Sunday. So he painted a picture of what he does on Sunday. And of course, there's a cathedral, so he attended church. And up here is a temple for the synagogue for his Jewish faith as well. And so that's his day on Sunday, he painted about it. Okay, and he's in Paris, right? What city? In Paris. Okay. That one's just a little lighter. It was a lithograph. It's called a lithograph, and that was in 1954. This is a stained glass window. He painted an entire, he painted churches, and before he died, he was commissioned to paint churches and windows. And so this is one in Germany that he painted 6 windows in the east, 3 windows in the transept. And it was a sign of goodwill between Jewish and Christian faiths as a way of uniting them. And this one was finished right before he died in 1985. He was 98 years old. He lived to almost be 100. Amazing. But what a beautiful stained glass. I know Monty is creating and maybe Michael, I'm not sure if you're participating in that or not, but the stained glass windows are just beautiful, and I encourage you to create some art of your own. I'm going to make another video with an art project for us to work on. So what I'd like you to do is get out your watercolor paper, the paper inside with the watercolor paint, your palette, your oil pastel. You'll need a straight edge of some sort to create a window. And then if you have some scraps around the house, like some cardboard or some paper that has different colors and different patterns on it, some string, you can see that they use some string. We're just going to add some different pieces to our art later. So if you remember in the book, there were sticks. Okay, so you can just collect a few little random things, ribbon, just a few little things from around the house, little pieces of egg carton. Yeah, and join me for the next video. Bye. I love you guys.